Who the F?
Welcome to Who the F, the vlog that's all mouth and no action. I'm CLF and who the F am I to retrospectively review the Right Now Festival that took place from the 30th of March to the 7th of April 2012. Now in its third year, Right Now Festival is the platform for budding writers and actors and also creative techs to wrap their toes around the first rung of that theatrical ladder and have their work shown alongside more established creatives. This year's festival had 10 very different plays, each with 3 runs. Apologies to the team behind Grease Monkeys, I was unable to attend your performances, so I am sincerely sorry about not being able to review your work. Okay, Who the F has a very simple rating system of either on or off. Let's go. Despite some good writing mixing northern wit and a nostalgic charm, the action and ultimately the direction missed the note on Michael Yates's Sunday Afternoon Again. Director's notes in the programme describe the story as a unique opportunity for Lenny, the protagonist, to look back on his childhood with adult eyes and adult knowledge, going further to describe the style of the play as surrealist. I can't fathom how the play was surreal, nor how being an adult and reflecting with an adult knowledge base is unique to any other time of looking back on childhood as an adult. Such notes indicated to me a lack of understanding of what was a good script, and another example how the word surreal seems to get attached to anything that needs jazzing up. Brox Baslow played protagonist Lenny, a middle-aged man now reflecting and reliving his childhood Sunday afternoons of 1953. A somewhat repetitive affair of reading comics, listening to his nan's stories, and bearing witness to his mother and father arguing, caused by a consequence of many men of that generation flushing their hard-earned lolly through the pubs and bookies. Baslow narrated the story, and the remaining actors seemed to wait for the narration to finish before acting. This was a letdown. When we recall a memory, we visualise the action first before expressing it vocally to share the moment. Therefore, if the actors acted beforehand and then Baslow narrated, a better rendering of reminiscence would have been achieved. Both Baslow and Pat Brocklehurst, who played Lenny's nan, kept the show's head just above water, particularly Brocklehurst, whose acting felt authentic. However, I wasn't sure whether Rachel Ashton and Robert Boyle, who played Mum and Dad respectively, were given the directive to be caricatures in light of a childlike recollection, or were simply underdeveloped or miscast. Ashton's outburst, representing Mam's frustration over a dinner gone cold, seemed unjustified, as there was no build-up of tension in neither action nor voice in the course of the play, and a lack of stress on the key line, Sunday Afternoon Again, made the whole line pointless. Boyle's delivery, too, appeared poorly comic. Sunday Afternoon Again was off. Certainly entertaining, Swim's comedic success came from using the rom-com baseline of smashing one career-minded super bitch into an unforeseeable skinny-dipping situation with a hopeless, Jesus-sandal-wearing divorcee. Christy Pito certainly put the moan into Simone, and Andrew Welsh played the hopeless, unsexed Alan with ease. Sharon Haywood and Mike Sanders played married couple, woman's refuge worker Carol, and struggling estate agent Dave, who was shacked up with the other unlikely pair for a crummy UK holiday. What seems like an ITV reality holiday nightmare at first becomes a play of change, realisations, and ends up being a good holiday all round. Although there is mention of familial death and divorce, I still wouldn't class Swim as a black comedy. Despite serving me with milk in my coffee, Swim was on. Congratulations to Mary Lloyd, both playwright and Right Now debutant, for scoring such a winner. The match sensibly mixes football, friendship and motor neuron disease to great effect. The drama primarily focuses on the dialogue between childhood friends Annie and Tina, played by Sheila Jones and Annie Edwards respectively. Their relationship felt lived, it felt real. Despite the fringe set, their acting really helped you to imagine similar conversations happening in a kitchen somewhere in Liverpool, or anywhere in fact. 2 wives, 2 husbands, 2 friendships. Like the male chromosome missing a piece in its genetic makeup, John Wenzer, who played Frank, was missing his male compadre Tom, the unseen husband of Annie. The absence of Tom made the play all the more poignant in its treatment of the subject matter and heightened Windsor's comic relief. Marie, you've got a play that can be tailored to all footballing cities to great success. You'd be daft not to tour it. The match was on. The premise of In the Beginning was good, if not original, with the occasional Masonic references. The Grand Architect, who is male, of course, is lo and behold counted by the divine creatrix, a mischievous and interfering female creator. Mild misogyny, anyone? Nah, who gives a crap about that? It's supposed to be funny and not reinforcing patriarchal ideals through comedy. And supposed is the key word here. Sean Hutchings was the star performer in the play. His well-to-do accent and madcap, cherubic Grand Architect worked to good effect, and some good comedy did bounce between him and Abigail Law Briggs, the divine creatrix. Despite the play's slightly irreverent look at creation, Richard Schofield's Adam was GCSE at best. Yes, Adam in this case is thick and experiences first morning wood, yeah, but the acting didn't have to be wooden. Whilst Emily Rose Crisoli's Eve got more script to play with, most of her lines were stupidly overtalked by the lead actors, but maybe with good cause, as her delivery was not far from conversational chav. You know what I mean, but it's got some currency with the kids. Now, call me prude, outdated and out of touch, but my Mary Whitehouse came out and was horrified that the word bugger was used in the script with the implication that it's fun. Old Mary is certainly turning. She's not sure about the play being PG, but I'm sure that the Grand Architect needs to go back to the drawing board and really think about who the target audience is. In the Beginning was off. The concept of Man in a Room was great. The script, great. Trev Fleming's delivery of his lines, as the man, also known as Dave, also known as Adam Free, also known as God, gee whiz, was great. The lighting and the simple set was great. Kev Heritage has attempted to tell truths, otherwise known as conspiracy theories, to the public by raising questions that they can ask themselves, and by doing so, hopefully concur with the rhetoric of the script. Chase Johnston Lynch helped make Heritage's views accessible by employing filmic framing systems and a simple set. However, Johnston Lynch, whether intentionally or not, didn't direct the action thoroughly enough and hadn't staged action correctly either. For example, Fleming was manacled to a table with no chair. Okay, so we get it. The agent is making the suspect uncomfortable by not allowing him to sit. But the agent then sits at the very table that the suspect is manacled to. Not only was the power dynamic off, but the suspect had enough range to headbutt the agent. If this staging choice was intentional, it served to undermine the whole idea that the agent had something to learn from the suspect, and already gave us the conclusion at the beginning of the performance. Another letdown was Sean John's Agent Stevens. He just wasn't slick enough for me. Biomechanically, there was no strength or surety in handling either objects or lines, which is paramount to the characterisation of Agent Stevens, surely. Man in a Room has great potential, but needs good ironing out before getting suited and booted again. Man in a Room? Sorry, but it was off. There's not really much to say about the execution of Saving Grace because it was clean, funny and excellently timed. Esther Dix, Marie Westcott and Angela Sims were affable, ditzy, annoyed and paranoid. Chris Kruckle, who won Right Now's Best Actor, bounced off the other three ladies with comic ease. Taking a comedic look at our increasing paranoia with our ever-growing fixation with social technology within the sitcom template, Saving Grace is a perfect play for the 16 to 25 demographic. Saving Grace was on. Pithy, exacting and forceful, An Unquiet Mind had not only an amazing script, the direction was strong and the acting was excellent. From the concise blurb in the festival programme to the minimal set, a strong through line from text to performance was evident. I was very keen to see this play on the basis that a high percentage of ex-squaddies have great difficulty adjusting to Civvy Street. Paul Codman plays ex-private PT, a now homeless individual who gets jumped by kids and lives under a bridge. The play centres on the dialogue between PT and Carl Wharton's B, a man with an imaginary pub that's only empty on Tuesdays, a situation that facilitates the interaction between the two characters. With great effect, Wharton clearly shifts between roles of barside counsellor, army officer, to perpetrators and abusers and the life experiences of PT. There's no explicit dialogue or action, but the scene in which PT recalls being abducted and subsequently abused by a paedophilic priesthood was both scary and moving. Wharton stood behind Codman whilst gripping and massaging his shoulders, vocalising dialogue whilst Codman narrated. It was enough. I felt sick, and rightly so. I'm sure it will, but I do hope this play tours bringing attention to the perennial problem of sexual abuse and will move people to the point of wanting to destroy those weeds. Unquiet Mind was on. It would be glib to say that Catfish therapy was the female version of an unquiet mind. Indeed, both plays deal with sexual abuse of children and the psychological trauma that arises from such physical interference. But it's from there that the two plays depart on very different journeys. I say this because we live in a depraved society in which every generation is rocked by several abuse scandals, and an unquiet mind dealt with what is unfortunately now familiar turf in the social consciousness. Catfish therapy, however, deals with a unique fragmentation of self as a result of systematic or satanic ritual abuse, SRA. No, it's not about Bible bashing and God Almighty, but the most perverted abuse that is essentially part of an organised crime network. To those either unaware or more likely to be intentionally ignorant to ritual abuse, catfish therapy appears to be a superficial internal struggle about a writer revealing their true thoughts and identity. In fact, catfish deals with a medical condition called dissociative identity disorder, or DID, a disorder in which the victim, and yes, I use this word quite correctly here, has several personalities because their core personality during childhood is fragmented into several others. This is a coping mechanism to disassociate from the present reality in which a child is being severely sexually abused on a routine basis. If that wasn't heavy enough, Catfish explicitly outlines characters who are intergenerational abusers within families and goes further to allude to organised and institutional abuse networks who are highly secretive in their nature and will stop at nothing to prevent anyone within the matrix from escaping and bleating the true horrors of their deeds. The opening image of Catfish is extremely striking and reminiscent of war torture victims in Iraq and Afghanistan, as Suzanne Collins has been taped to a chair and has a bag over her head, thus being dehumanised. As the action develops, Lynn Fitzgerald enters and appears at first to be a mental health cum social worker of sorts and appears peaceable, until the audience realises that she is in fact a violent interrogator working to an established programme of mind control and tortuous subjugation. The acting from Collins and Fitzgerald was first class. Collins played both her roles with conviction and sincerity, and Fitzgerald executed her aggression fervently and was adept at changing from several personalities within minutes. Despite Richie Grice's bit part as a real-world medical professional, it unified the performances of the pro/antagonists. For those of you who still think the play is a vanity piece about writing, I suggest you look at the life and works of British artist Kim Noble, who has DID. Her artwork, which is a result of therapy to overcome her abuse, is a clear indication of the torturous regimes that practice abuse and mind-splitting. As a play and as a performance, I was blown away, and I would like to thank playwright Ian Moore for bringing such a heinous series of events to the public space. And I hope it can help people to recognise similar cases and can help prevent such evil acts from happening in the future. However, this does not come without warning. I watched the last performance of Catfish, and during the electric shock scene to the genital region, several men laughed during it. How one can find torture amazing is far beyond my reasoning, but as with any piece like this that tries to raise awareness, unfortunately, there will be those who watch to get their jollies. However, the vile laughers in the audience cannot detract from the fact that Catfish therapy is a resounding on. Alice by Natalie Hickman was the only play to accurately use the word surreal to describe its style. Again, it was another play that had a strong through line from programme notes to performance. Gillian Thompson did a great comedic turn as Alice, even though the questions regarding her life direction were bothering her. Chris Garton, who played Edmund, the travelling salesman/rabbit, too, was funny and engaging. Garton and Thompson played really well together, expressing both their inner child and what is a fun play, and still being professional performers. My only gripe, and it is only small, was Alice's costume. I understand the fringe aspect of the budget for such a performance, but I was a little disappointed with the Primark-esque get-up. Maybe I've missed the point, as the costume may be a reflection of the everydayness of the questions Alice asks herself. But I think, should the show go further, which it'd be daft not to, a little more thought and time should be spent in pushing the boat out. After all, when Alice can convince Edmund to buy a pair of leather shoes made from bambino arse cheeks or something of the likes, shouldn't the costume reflect some of that craziness too? Despite that, overall, Alice was definitely on. Who the F am I? I'm CLF, and I'm going to F off.